Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Rostermania is getting underway and many questions being raised about what OpTic Texas might decide to do over the coming weeks. Karma, the coach of the team as it stands, reveals just where they fell short of the World Championship, which game modes let them down, and also Hex revealed a couple of days ago now the possibility of some role changes within that camp, especially if they might look to bring in some other SMG talent into that roster. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Let's get right in. First of all, got to mention, fantasy champion baby. I went pretty risky on my team. Okay, I'm not absolute number one. I didn't choose the absolute best possible team, but out of the community leaderboards, we were number one. Finally got a W here this year because I'd had some sketchy teams, I'm not gonna lie, this season. So I'd chosen Hydra, Priestess, Skies, and Hicksy. They all made the finals. They all got the multiplier boost and placing well, so did pretty well there to be fair. Got a dub for the season. Got a fantasy ring, I guess is what this means. But in fairness, Ake still had the best season here of fantasy, got a first, second, and a third. So fair play, and his team was pretty decent this time around as well. The best possible team went to these 5 individuals who managed to pick Kismet, Skies, Cell, and Hicksy. So I got 2 of them right. Cell was just, I mean, he dropped like back-to-back 1.7s. And then Kismet as the captain for 8. That was the way to go if you guys wanted to win, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, that was the winning team. So congratulations to all those, and the prizes will be distributed in short order. Also wanted to mention what was confirmed during the World Championship yesterday is that the World Series Warzone Global Final is going to be in London. They say September the 16th. I'm not exactly sure where. It probably is going to be at the Copper Box again, so I guess I'll probably just turn up to this one. It should be a bit of fun. But yeah, I don't know. I know that people are getting a little bit frustrated about this because we've waited all these years for a good COD event in London, then it finally happens and it's World Series of Warzone, like in the off-season. So I don't know. I've got mixed opinions on this, let's just say. But it is not far away for me, so I probably should turn up to be fair. Let's talk Rostermania though, because there's so many questions what's going to happen over the coming weeks here. One of which is Clayster actually, because Clay was killing it on the desk this weekend. I thought he did a phenomenal job, and I'm also sure that he's going to be having offers in his DMs from coaching potential, because you look at a team like the Minnesota Rokkr. I think they're going to clear house. I don't expect Brian Satan Looney to be there next year. They might be, but there's been discussions about whether they'd get Rambo in. But also, you know, could Clay be a target there instead? Would they say, look, Clay, or could any team say to look, Clay, especially given the fact that all of the rookies he's played with over the last few years have now gone on to win a World Championship, Clay could be a great kind of asset in that position. But he still wants to compete. He said that, and it just depends what offers he gets. If his only chance to compete next year is to stay on Vegas, or he's got like 3 coaching offers coming through, then maybe he goes down that route. But I'm sure he wants to extend his career as long as possible, and if he does get an offer from a team like Boston or even Minnesota as a player, then I think Clay will heavily consider it. So I hope that it happens. I know there was also this that came out yesterday here from Hugo, who, well, Clay, he signs this OpTic flag. So Clay was on OpTic, of course, back in the day, and maybe there's a chance it happens again. I think it's rather unlikely that Clay to OpTic is a returning theme, especially because if Dashy was going to be there, you know, Clay and Dashy aren't going to work out on the same team as far as I'm concerned. But Coach Karma has given his thoughts on why OpTic fell so far short this tournament. They had their chances, right, especially against the subliners. They were in that series. If they'd have won the control, if they'd just closed out that game 4, who knows what happens. They could have won that series, gone on to the winners finals against Toronto. Maybe they'd have won, maybe they'd have lost. I feel like anyway, OpTic, they just weren't playing well enough to make it to actually win this tournament, I don't think. But they could have been more competitive. They could have got top 3. It was definitely on the cards, but they squandered the chances that they had. And top 6 is going to spell the end of this team, I'm sure, in terms of the current roster they have. Karma says they were looking like the best control team in the game apparently coming into this one, and also their Fortress was their bread and butter for a long time. Their Fortress Surge and also their Fortress Hardpoint, which let them down against Surge in the series where they got knocked out of the tourney.
Kind of neutralize
like
him.
Looking at this, bro, it's so shitty that like
SMG duo and
I actually feel okay this weekend, right? Our team. The Surge, bro, I actually don't know what happened with the Surge. We won that map that they just played for them, right?
Surge is such a hard thing to keep consistent.
Yeah, like, yeah, but like, versus New York, I actually like our control. I honestly think like we might have been like the best control team.
We were here 2 years ago.
Which sucks,
and I think we could have.
You guys,
we should have at least either won that 3-1 versus New York or went round 5.
You guys should have won that series.
We were actually doing really well on Himmel Mat, but nobody was gonna play it. Even as Silo, like they were never gonna play it, but like if it did come up, bro, our Silo was actually gross.
Really?
It is happening. Grand finals time. Toronto
But the
Ultra
worst part
versus
about that New
New
York series, Hotel was our best hard point.
Riley, run that.
That boy Flux, man, he's mysterious. No one really knows Ryan. Good dude.
Hey Seth,
Too tall as well.
going into that,
Away from me.
our Hotel was our best this weekend.
Hotel.
Hard point.
Hard point?
And
I mean, it
we
makes
came
sense.
out and it was just a bad start. But then the worst thing about that was I don't know what happened to control. Our Fortress.
Yeah, that
Our
was
Fortress,
that was the
in
surprising one.
scrims, our Fortress P3 was good.
Here we go with this.
I'd say the rest of the map
Chronic,
was
congrats.
good.
The
The one in art, that hill, like, just was bad.
We'll see if Ultra can make
That's how
this
it is.
fight. Okay,
That's how it
It's
is.
so weird. Even like we were scrimming like here, not online because people hate the wall.
Okay, CleanX is starting to shoot now. That's not who you want to heat up if you're New York.
For Toby right there. That's what you want to see.
But like the first day we scrimmed Toronto on Fortress Hardpoint, Scrappy dropping 40. The next day, we're scrimming Fortress. I think it's only about to play New York. Ants dropping 40 and we're winning. Like, it's just like,
Let's be
it's
honest.
so crazy how day-to-day this show is.
I got TJ Haley in here. He said Zin is Shotzzy main AR now. Why, is he running an AR a lot?
Hey. Whoa. I'm not going to tell you what I told him to do.
Oh, okay. So Hector gave him some intelligence.
What did I just say?
Sorry. What'd you tell him, Hector?
I said, Shotzzy, you should be a flex. You can do it all, kid. And also I said, Ant, don't you want to be challenged by the lack of movement that an AR gets? And he said, yeah, I do. I'm like, don't you want to break those mechanics? He said, yeah. So there he is, breaking the mechanics.
So it's quite interesting to hear what Karma's thoughts are on exactly, like, not exactly sure why. And it was the same argument that happened, actually, during Major 5. It was like, they don't really know why they hadn't turned up, but turned out that certain situations, they just didn't really deliver. This, though, was the interesting clip to me, with Hex talking about Shotzzy and the possibility of some role changes going on. Now, Shotzzy isn't going to be changing roles, I imagine, but just the implication from Hex that it's at least in the back of mind about what they might do next year does imply that there might be some things happening there with OpTic, and I'm sure there will be. These just, for example, were their numbers here at the World Championship. They beat Boston 3-1. They then lost in that Heartbreaker series to New York and then went down Game 5 to Surge with the Sib 1 versus 3. I think what really hurt them was the 3-0 record against them on Mikado Surge. 0-3 on Mikado Surge was bad, but also, to be fair, the defeat they had to Surge on that, Game 4 Fortress Hardpoint, they wouldn't have expected that one to happen. These were the numbers as well. I thought this is crazy, right? They're Search and Destroy. Dashy has a 0.66. Ghosty's got a 1.3, and they're still, they're still going down 1-3. Okay, he's not got the highest first blood rate. Shotzzy's doing a lot of the action there. But, yeah, it wasn't pretty. And in fairness, right, Karma is correct in that their control was pretty damn good. Especially beating Boston in control, not easy to do. Beating Surge in control, not easy to do. But losing to Subliners was a bit of a dagger for sure. Especially because that Hotel control they played against New York was winnable. But, yeah, just didn't happen in the end for these guys. So that's the result, top 6 in the end. And what changes will they now potentially look to make? I know that Dashy's already on it again, right? I mean, look at this guy going, like, World Championship is over and he's straight back on another side quest. But there's going to be big questions here. What I will say is that these are the top 10 KDs from the World Championship. Cellium at number 1 with a 1.43. I mean, somehow he's done it again. He's not going to go anywhere from FaZe. But the other guys here are definitely options. A Hydra's going to stay on New York, no doubt. Octane, it will get to him. Slasher here at a 1.13 this tourney, but he still might not be on FaZe, depending on how things go. If they decide to make a serious move and change around some roles in that team, it's a possibility Slasher is gone, and therefore he actually could be a target. Would Slasher help OpTic? I think he very much would. I honestly, and okay, maybe it wouldn't work with roles and dynamic and chemistry and all this, but genuinely, ever since Crimsix left OpTic, I think the team has gone downhill. You look at the results they used to have in the Dynasty period. Ever since they lost a character like Crimsix, a real winner type player. Now, Formal was that guy, and he still is, right? But he was losing his motivation for COD, especially during the online days of Modern Warfare 19 and then going into Cold War. I think ever since Crimsix left, it changed the mentality somewhat. And I genuinely thought when they did the merger with Dallas, when they brought in, you know, iLLeY and Shotzzy and Rambo and these guys, I thought it was going to be alright. The Dallas Empire feel of what they had going on when they were winning an awful lot, that was going to reinfect OpTic. But it almost felt like it was the other way around, that the OpTic culture kind of, you know, corrupted the Dallas Empire guys in some respect, and maybe Rambo and Shotzzy maintained some of that, but then Rambo was kicked because he didn't get on with Dashy. So it just felt to me, and it has felt over the last couple of years, that from a culture perspective, and also with OpTic, it's such a consistent trend, where at some point in the year they get good, they do an awful lot, and then they just get a bit complacent. And I know that New York had to actually fight against this because they won the first event, they fell off, they had to climb the mountain back again to being at the top of the pedestal, and OpTic, they went 5-0 back-to-back, they made all the finals, and I'm sure that in some respect, OpTic therefore thought, well, you know, we're looking really good. We're going to win something at some point. Maybe they took their foot off the accelerator just a touch when every other team was going balls to the wall. And it is a consistent trend. And a guy like Slasher, like he's a winner player. He's like Crimsix. He's a veteran guy. And I think he's taught the likes of even Cellium and the FaZe guys a lot. Maybe in terms of roles, it just doesn't really work for FaZe and they want to go a different direction and put Simp to the flex or something now. But if Slasher was to be free, I think he's worth looking at. The issue you have there is that Slasher and Dashy, they didn't work before. I don't think they're going to work again. So it's almost like a one or the other in that sense. Now, could Octane work with Dashy? Maybe. I'm not so convinced. I personally would want to put Dashy. If I'm keeping Dashy, I want to put him on the main. And if you are keeping Dashy, you probably just keep Ghosty as well, because I don't really see anyone better in Ghosty's role to do what he does. So the most likely possibility for OpTic, and it still probably remains this way, is that it's Dashy, Ghosty, Shotzzy, Pred. That's your team of 4. And maybe that'll happen. Maybe it won't. Maybe Pred doesn't want to go there. Maybe he doesn't think that that team has the potential that other teams that might offer Pred might have. So maybe we see more than a one-man change. And the other key name here is Envoy, right? And this is the other one to mention, because even before the tourney we said, if they can't get Pred, or even if they still want Pred, and maybe they want Pred and Envoy, who knows? And just go wild with it and, you know, put someone on the flex here, as Hex was discussing. So I think it's going to be interesting to note. And also Ghosty at 1.08. So I think he did a great job. But that's what I'm saying, right? With Slasher and with Octane and with these targets, I would genuinely rather pair them with Ghosty than I would with Dashy, just on history and roles and chemistry and stuff like this. So, you know, I think it's a really interesting debate there. Dashy, I think, has improved this year and definitely has taken a step forward, but there's still part of me that thinks, is it just a coincidence? Can it just be a coincidence that so many teams that Dashy has been on with all this theoretical star power have just generally failed to deliver? The other name that I'd be looking at actually is Drazah as well, because Drazah's going to be a free agent from Thieves. He's a name in that role now. You know, Ghosty for Drazah. I don't know if I necessarily think that's worth it, but it could be an interesting thing to look at. So I think that OpTic have some really interesting questions to answer here in whether they just go for a one-man move. Huke is going to be gone. I think there's no doubt about that one. But whether they keep Dashy, Ghosty, and Shotzzy, because when you make a one-man change, it's not particularly drastic. It might be an upgrade for Huke, but is Pred fixing the problems that OpTic have and that we saw from OpTic at the World Championship? I'm not so sure. And also, you've got to remember that Karma has not been the biggest fan of Huke since he joined, and assuming that Karma's still going to be the head coach over there next season, as it seems like he presently is, Huke's not going to be there. So I'm sure Karma has his thoughts as well on what he thinks about the team and whether a one-man change is enough. But that is a big question to me over the coming weeks, because going into this tourney, I expected OpTic to make a one-man change. But the way that they've dropped out of it makes me think that more than that might be possible. And Shotzzy's going to still be there. I think there's no doubt about that. Also, just to mention for you guys, this weekend we had the 2 highest. I mean, it's going to be incredibly hard to imagine a World Championship Grand Final in the near future where anything like this happens again. Both Kismet and Skies dropped the 2 highest COD Champs Grand Finals KDs ever. Like, the highest was Aches at 2014. That's now been absolutely blown out the park by Kiz and Skies. This is wild to think about, to be honest. And it might well take another decade until we get anything that looks like this. There are also now in this league 6 active players with 9 championships. Simp, aBeZy, Slasher, Octane, Arcitys, and Priester all have 9 wins. And one of them will be the first to 10, or potentially multiple of them next season. Priester being on here is just super impressive, honestly. It's great to see see this guy getting back to form after playing on the Minnesota Rokkr, and we know what that can do to certain players' careers, unfortunately, but we're going to leave it there for today. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.